The reality is you're layering what is a constitutional right for the American people and making it harder for people to vote in this country, and it's going to disenfranchise Black voters.
Concern you that you're making all these claims, you've yet to lay out how it's hurting anyone, but 76% of Black voters think we should show an ID to vote, 80% of Hispanic voters, 83% of the American people. Are you saying that Black voters
the
are
SAVE
too
Act
dumb to know what's good for them? I mean,
the
it
SAVE Act
sounds
isn't
pretty,
just about
sounds pretty condescending.
That was Republican Scott Jennings asking one very simple question. How exactly is proving you're a citizen before voting harmful? Seems straightforward, right? But instead of a clear answer, the CNN panel spiraled into a frenzy of buzzwords and emotional deflections. No specifics. No substance. Just noise. Welcome to Omar Facts. I'm Omar, and right now Democrats and legacy media outlets appear deeply uncomfortable explaining why confirming citizenship before participating in federal elections is suddenly framed as controversial. Because here's what the SAVE Act actually does. It requires documentary proof of citizenship when registering to vote in federal elections.
What voting rights is he taking away from Black voters?
Oh, if we look at
the SAVE Act?
The SAVE Act, that's exactly what we're talking about. That is actually going to continue to disenfranchise overwhelmingly a lot of people of color. There are so many civil rights organizations that have run the data. If we look at the way that it is going to disenfranchise Black voters, it's the same reason why Chuck Schumer called it Jim Crow 2.0. So this is the same president. If we want to continue,
you haven't said how yet.
I am talking about it. It's the way that you're putting new poll taxes on this when you're making people have. That's what we can call them now. It's kind of an idiom, right? If you want to say that people have to prove that they are citizens, that they have to prove with a voter ID.
The SAVE Act is not just about ideas. The SAVE Act is about
proof
of citizenship.
So what?
So it doesn't. I actually.
It also makes it very hard for
married women who. I was just going to say we talked about this before. It's not. It actually. There's an argument to be made that red state voters, women. Poor white voters could be just as.
I know you think they're dumb too, don't you?
Yeah,
I mean that's the thing. I hear these arguments. I've heard Democrats all week long.
No, please don't. No, you listen.
There's a deflection from talking about long-term racism.
I'm actually
there.
You should be thinking about your constituents or your.
Yeah, I think they're smart enough to figure out how to register to vote.
Hold on. Most Americans don't have a passport. Many Americans don't have access to their birth certificate. Many women, a majority of women who change their names for marriage have to provide additional proof that they've changed their legal names in order to register to vote. So Scott, why don't you actually respond to the substance of what I'm saying?
I am, and
as
the
opposed to making this about something that it's not. It's not just about voter ID. It's also about
Black
who has
voters
access
and rural people are too stupid to figure out how to register to vote.
No, that's not.
That is not what
so
Democrats
offensive.
making this
That
argument.
is so offensive.
That is not what she said.
Let me offer the proof.
Figure out how to vote?
Let me offer.
Are you saying they can't
This
figure
is
out how to
the
vote?
exact same argument.
It is a fact.
But instead of debating that policy directly, critics are leaning into fear-based arguments about who it might hurt. Jennings didn't yell. He didn't rant. He just pointed out the obvious, and the reaction said everything. Clip 2. Here's where it gets awkward for Democrats. Roughly 93% of Americans already possess a government-issued photo ID. That's not a fringe statistic, that's reality. Look at Georgia. After implementing stricter verification laws, voter turnout didn't collapse. It increased. So when critics argue that certain communities can't manage basic documentation requirements, it raises an uncomfortable question. Is that argument protecting people or underestimating them? Adults navigate paperwork constantly for jobs, housing, healthcare, travel. The idea that verifying citizenship for voting is somehow uniquely impossible doesn't quite add up.
Why you're making this about whether you're smart or not.
You're saying that they can't vote, that they can't figure out how to document to register to vote?
Access to documentation of proof of where you were born or proof of citizenship is an additional thing that people
because at one point Black people actually weren't even allowed.
It's a barrier.
It is a barrier.
This is exactly.
Yes.
Okay,
but at one point Black
does
people
everybody
were
that you know have their original birth certificate?
Everybody that I know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
but I know where mine is, and I know where my kids are.
There are elderly people in this country who are 80 years old, and they haven't seen their original birth certificate in decades. They would need to provide proof of citizenship.
It's not fear mongering at all.
That's just a reality. And listen,
Jim Crow
Here's how-
2.0.
Scott.
They say that about the Georgia law. What happened? Voter participation
Scott,
went up.
Then there's the moment where the mask slips. You can almost see the shift. That polished, calm, rehearsed tone suddenly gives way to something sharper. The underlying elitism peeks through. There's a certain brand of media composure that projects reason and restraint right up until frustration exposes the real sentiment underneath. And when commentators begin implying that political opponents are incapable of critical thinking, it tells you less about conservatives and more about the speaker.
Conservatives are living in a completely different information world
Absolutely.
than liberals. And breaking that down needs to be done. Because when you don't ever even hear the facts, it's hard to even know that you're wrong. And that happens a lot. I mean, half my job sometimes is knowing what the latest conspiracy is.
Yeah.
So that if it comes up, I'm ready to address it. Because it happens a lot where people don't even know that what they're saying or what they've seen and believe is not true. And so that happens a lot. And I don't come away from that saying, what's the point of this? People are just saying false things. I think that one time that person brings up something that is debunked and false, and I debunk it at the table, might be the very first time that someone out there has heard an alternative point of view.
It's ironic hearing accusations about living in a bubble coming from one of the most ideologically consistent environments in cable news. Multiple studies have shown that media audiences often cluster around outlets that reinforce their views, and that pattern isn't limited to one side. The narrative that only conservatives are insulated doesn't hold up under scrutiny. Political echo chambers exist across the spectrum. If we're going to talk about intellectual diversity, it has to be an honest conversation, not a selective one.
None of them will answer the simplest question imaginable. Should only U.S. citizens vote in U.S. elections? Because once you say yes, their argument collapses. Here's the reality that Democrats don't want to admit. Voter ID is overwhelmingly popular with the American people. Republicans, independents, Democrats, black voters, Hispanic voters, white voters, men, women. Everybody is for it. 83% of Americans want voter ID. So when Democrats say voter ID is Jim Crow 2.0, they're going against another 80-20 issue in America, and they're going against African American voters, they're going against Hispanic voters, and they're essentially arguing that most Americans are racist. It's really sort of offensive if you ask me, dishonest and elitist. Jim Crow was about excluding people because of race. Voter ID is about including only eligible voters. Now, Democrats would respond and say, well, just because they were registered doesn't mean they voted. But here's the point. If thousands of ineligible people are registered to vote, doesn't that tell you that the system is broken? The Save America Act says verify citizenship, require ID to vote, clean up the voter rolls, and prevent problems before elections, not after. That's not voter suppression, that's basic system maintenance. Now let's talk a little about hypocrisy, because this is where Democrats completely give themselves away. Let's meet Senator Jon Ossoff of Georgia. Jon Ossoff, like most Democrats, opposes voter ID. He opposes the Save America Act. He says ID requirements are discriminatory. But at his own campaign events, new reporting has revealed, Jon Ossoff requires government-issued photo ID to get inside. Let that sink in. You need ID to hear Jon Ossoff speak, but Jon Ossoff says you don't need ID to show up and vote?
Here's the bigger picture. The bill requires documentary proof of citizenship to register for federal elections. That's the policy. And despite the outrage, online voter ID laws are broadly popular, including among many Democratic voters. The documents in question? Nothing exotic. The same types of identification Americans already use to work, legally receive government benefits, or obtain a driver's license. This isn't a radical reinvention of civic participation. It's aligning voter registration with standards already common in daily life. Yet critics label it discriminatory while simultaneously criticizing Jennings for suggesting that such claims underestimate voters' abilities. If the political roles were reversed, you can bet similar arguments would be made just from the other podium. So here's the real question. Are Democrats opposing the SAVE Act because they genuinely believe it's harmful or because election security is one of the most popular issues in the country right now? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you appreciated this breakdown, hit that like button and subscribe. It really does help the channel grow. Until next time, this has been Omar Facts. Thanks for watching.